It's Tuesday, 29th December 2020. Welcome to the Match Reaction Seasiders podcast. And we're reacting again to what we've just watched, which was Shrewsbury Town 1, Blackpool 0 as the pool in a lacklustre performance. I'm John Aspinall, this is the Seasiders podcast, Match Reaction show, and as I've just said, Shrewsbury Town 1, Blackpool 0.
It's already changed the world. Small town from the north of England with a great tradition.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Seasiders podcast, Match Reaction show. It's what day is it? It's Tuesday. Forget what days it is over Christmas. Joining us in the virtual studio tonight is Tim, Matt, Tom, and Sam. Good evening, Sam. Good to have you back.
Yeah, good evening. A little bit frustrated after that, but yeah, I'm good to try and get it all out now, ready for tomorrow. So hopefully don't go into tomorrow a bit angry and mad about what I've just watched this evening.
Well, what's tomorrow?
Just nothing, just a better day, isn't it?
Oh, okay. You're playing your dad at Substitution or something, a big grudge match coming up.
Bloody walk, that's what he wants me to do.
Have you ever come on one of these walks? I think you have you? Or have you?
Not with the view from the tower. I've been on one via Rydell, I think, once. It was quite nice, but yeah, I need to get out more, I think.
Tim can bore us all with that later. Anyway, Matt, how you doing, Matt? As we were saying off air, we're not going to discuss what we've just watched because we can fully vent and get it all out during the show, can't we?
Yeah, I mean, my blood pressure's gone up immensely over the last few days with all the celebrations and Quality Street I've been eating, so that doesn't help.
Your body's probably not used to it, is it? After all,
no, it certainly isn't.
After the fasting.
I'm like Mr. Creosote off Monty Python after this last week.
Good evening, Tim. And now we've got another sort of viewpoint of view. Where are you now?
Oh, this is my new temporary podcasting studio that I've just created this afternoon. In our conservatory that was full of junk and furniture that I've just got rid of, and
those builders can't come fast enough, can they?
They can't.
As we treated to the patrons of this show a nice little behind the scenes view of you squatting on a puff. Sam, I think, is that we can describe it? Also, cross-legged on a puff.
God knows what it was. It was, yeah, unbelievable scenes, really, wasn't it?
It was a temporary arrangement.
See, it's a good reason to become a patron as you see a little behind-the-scenes access like that. Hilarious. Welcome, Tom. Good to have you back.
Evening, guys. You all right?
Too bad, thanks. How's your Christmas been?
Yeah, all right. Back to work the next day, so not too exciting.
How did everyone's Christmas dinners go?
Yeah,
down well, yeah.
You remember all the spuds?
I'll scrap them.
Got them early doors. Never forget the spuds.
Can't forget the spuds, can you? Eh? 3-bird roast I had from Lidl, 20 quid. Very nice.
Cash back.
Tim Bisons has said Tim's tomb.
Tim's
tomb. He said
he's looking a bit spooky in here.
He says the lack of backlight reminds him of Fright Night on your video.
I've even got the candles going here as well.
MB says grim, that lad. So I think that's more in relation to the performance that we've just watched, which was Blackpool. So Blackpool have lost to Shrewsbury in a lacklustre performance. So welcome to everybody on the stream anyway. Thanks for joining us. It is 10 p.m. Very late. We do tend to get quite a few more on after we've got beat, so it's good for that. But let's crack on with the game if we must. Let's bring this up first, which is the team lineup. So let's go from top to bottom, starting with you, Sam. What did you make of that lineup? And were you happy with it?
Probably the only change I would have made is Anderson out and put Yates in and gone for the 4-4-2. I think that we've been successful with that over recent weeks and months, and we finally found a formula that worked. And today I can understand why he's gone for maybe the extra man in midfield with Shrewsbury playing kind of a 3-5 at the back or 5 midfield, whichever way you look at it. But yeah, overall, I was not too upset with the lineup. Just that one change for me, but yeah, we never got going. I'm sure we'll come into that later in the program.
Mr. Smith. Oh, you're muted. It wouldn't be a live stream without one cock up. He's just struggling.
He needs to press it on his end. That's what he needs to do on the screen.
You need to press it on your end, Matt.
Sorry, I went on the big screen and I didn't see the mute button being pressed. So I'll go on the small screen and everyone's the size of a postage stamp again.
Right, Penny, for your thoughts, Matt, on the team lineup.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I mean, it was just a case of whoever we can get out there, because nobody really knows who's tested positive, who's self-isolating, and all that sort of nonsense at the moment. So when I saw the lineup itself, it didn't unduly concern me. I think I was, a little bit disappointed, like most people, that Yates wasn't starting. But other than that, it seemed fairly sort of obvious that those players that were missing were replaced with sort of like for like, really. So no major sort of surprises, I guess. You could have easily swapped one or two around, but as far as the formation goes that he chose to play, it was pretty much to be expected, really.
Tim, over to you. It surprised me no one's mentioned the 4-4-2 here. Were you? Yeah, well, I was about to. I mean, you look at the lineup. It looked interesting because obviously Kemp had come in. We have the Dougal and Robson in midfield. The two attacking fullbacks was an interesting development for me. I think he was probably born out of the fact that we've got two relatively defensive central midfielders and two very reliable centre backs. He's probably thought I can create some attacking options with the fullback positions. But as others have said, where the hell is Yates? Every game that we've played well this season, where we've picked up points this season, we've played a 4-4-2, and yet at the earliest any opportunity he seems to take to revert to a 4-3-3 or a version of a 4-3-3 that creates very few chances. And so as soon as I saw that, I thought, why? So, Tim, just look at this. What Tony Lawson's just left us in the comments. He's obsessed with being outnumbered in midfield instead of trusting our own lads to make sure they do their job. That was something I said on the last show, that just play our game. Don't worry about the others.
Well, let's get it right. Shrewsbury haven't won a game at home this season, and I think we said on one of the chats we had a couple of days ago.
Is that right?
Nailed on home win, isn't it? It's
not one since Feb.
Yeah, February.
So yeah, it was. I was frustrated before the start about that. But interesting to see how players like Kemp played and the two attacking fullbacks played. So they were my immediate thoughts.
So Tom, you were nodding with a lot of what Tim said there on the formation. So just gives you your thoughts.
Yeah, just literally to echo what you've just said. I think Critchley just seems to want to outthink his opponent, when really what's been working for us has been that 4-4-2. And like we've just said, let our lads do our job and let Medina and Yates play off each other like they have been. It's been working, but he just seems to have this weird idea that each game is going to make a slight change and he's going to outthink or outsmart his opponent. It's not going to work at this level, and we're on a good run. And like someone said in the group earlier, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So just it needs Yates and Medina, and it needs that 4-4-2 for us to be a solid outfit. And we've got no direction with that 4-3-3. It's hardly worked all season, and it didn't work again tonight. So
yeah, I can't argue with any of that. Right, let's go on to the match action then. Sam, how do you think Blackpool started this game? From my recollection, not greatly.
No, and I've been to Shrewsbury in the last 2 or 3 years, and I know the pitch is awful. I've been twice during the Christmas festive period, and I'm guessing with all the snow on it today or overnight and them clearing it, it wouldn't have been in the best condition. And trying to get the ball down on the floor would have been near enough impossible, which we did well, to be fair, later on in the game. But against a side who haven't won at home, you really want to put a bit of pressure on them and really put them on the back foot. But I just thought they soaked up the pressure that Blackpool put on them really well and made it difficult. And Blackpool struggled to get going, but it's one of those ones. Away from home is always difficult, but to go to a team that haven't won at home since February, obviously months gone due to the pandemic, but we've really got to start better. And when I've seen us start brightly, we seem to go on and win the game. So it was disappointed in that regard.
Yeah, Matt, over to you next. So we're missing CJ Hamilton, aren't they? I think he was a big miss, wasn't he, throughout the game? We didn't look like we had an outlet of sorts on the right, but we did have a couple of half-decent chances in the first 10 minutes of the game. Dan Kemp, a half shell drills it straight at the keeper, who's called Sarcic. And then Gary Medine, a great speculative effort from, a good 30 yards out, and any other day that could have gone in the net.
Yeah, and that was pretty much it for the whole half, though, wasn't it? Really,
Yeah.
We started off okay, I guess. We are away from home, and like Sam mentioned, the pitch wasn't sort of conducive to any sort of free flowing football. But we were just, although we started okay, I say okay with a very small O and a very small K. We never really sort of stamped any sort of authority on the game. Early on, we seemed to be second to the ball. I thought Robson was way off the pace, which was, so disappointing when he's in a really key position, isn't it? Because Dougal's pretty much a shoo-in. I think we know that's the case. So there's still a place to be had alongside him, and he should be making the most of his opportunities, and he just doesn't seem to be. And we were poor. Let's not beat around the bush. We were poor all over the pitch, but we just didn't seem to lack anything. And missing CJ Hamilton is huge. And I think I might be right in saying that's that he was the only player that had played all games through the season for us so far, and he's a massive miss. Obviously his pace gets us, well, A, out of trouble at times, and B, obviously attacking on the front foot, and without him, we just look half the side. Even as poor as we were tonight, I don't really want to talk too much more. It was sort of a forgettable first half, really. First half of the half, especially.
So Tim, let's come over to you in what you thought of the first half. Obviously, we've talked about those two chances. Big Marv made a couple of telling blocks during that first half, and he was at his kind of imperious best, really, wasn't he? He's kept us in it in a couple of last-ditch tackles.
Yeah, I mean, just before I move on to that, I was quite quietly positive about the first 10 minutes. Like I said, we had the Medine chance, we had Kemp got away a couple of times, but then we fade, and I just felt we were carrying. I will come on to it, but I felt we were carrying too many players today. But I thought Ekpiteta had a great game again. And I thought Ballard was very solid as well. So, very much they had more chances in that first half than they had the right to have, really, I thought, bearing in mind our abilities and their abilities. And you could see as the half went on, they were coming more and more into the game and creating more and more chances. And they had three, like me and Sam were speaking during the game, they had three big lads at the back who were very uncompromising, to put it politely, in the way they went about their business. And we didn't really seem to have an answer to that as to how to get past them. And we saw Shrewsbury come into the game more and more. And as you say, Ekpiteta did a great job on a couple of occasions in, breaking up their play, getting blocks in, and ably assisted by Ballard.
So we've got an interesting comment just come in from AMAC, which there's a lot of truth in this, and he says it's the most disappointing performance since the "we're stuck with him" days, if anyone remembers that. Tom, I can see you're nodding your head there. It's a decent shout, isn't it? And I know exactly what he means by that comment.
Yeah, I think it was Wimbledon, wasn't it, when that got mentioned? And tonight stunk of that performance. I think first 10 minutes, like Tim said, actually, if we kept the ball like we did and started creating the opportunities a lot more, then I started feeling a bit more confident. But fading out was probably the best way to describe it. The more we didn't create anything, the more they the more they went up the other end and put a bit of pressure on us. And I don't actually think they were that great tonight. I think the back four, we're poor all over the pitch. I don't think they had a great deal to do. Marv's credit to him again, it's already been mentioned. He was top notch and is becoming a really good centre back for us. But other than the first 10 minutes, I thought, I said in the chat, I think Medine should have probably played Kemp in. I might be a bit cynical because it was a good shot, but he was in acres of space and he just didn't quite see him. I think he apologised afterwards, but we just didn't create enough and we weren't good in the middle. I think Dougal was working hard, but he wasn't supported nearly enough by Robson at all. And it's mentioned that most of the midfield are off pace today, and it just enabled us to be a poor team overall and let them control the game.
So I'm just going to stick this out to the room now. What Tom just said there, that the midfield was really not on their A games today. And Michael Jackson on the Radio Lanks chat, he attributed a lot of this. I'll have had 3 drinks, can't you? To the fact that we've not played, we've missed the last 2 games, and he's saying Shrewsbury are ticking over and we've not been, and he thinks we just weren't out the traps and we weren't as sharp. So, Sam, you've been around frontline football probably more than us. So, what are your thoughts on that? And do you agree with that general sentiment? Do you think it's a case of being rusty?
Yeah, in some respects. Obviously, people think you should be fresh after a few games off or a few weeks off, but there's also that other side that the match sharpness. Still, I've had games behind closed doors, or every game's behind closed doors, isn't it? But one at the training ground. But that sharpness wasn't there. I just didn't the movement. But again, I think some of it does boil down to the pitch. That when the frost came in, it just made it a bit more zippy, and some of the players' touches in both teams I thought was awful tonight, especially professional football, as you expect a lot more. But yeah, probably a little bit rusty in our regards. Tom said I thought they were very poor. I thought I've watched them a few times in the last 3 years, and they did the same thing. Last 15, 20 minutes, every throw in, every corner took 40, 45 seconds to take. Referee does nothing about it until it's 5 minutes to go, and then they only added 5 minutes on, which I thought was at least 1 or 2 minutes too short. But yeah, I'm going to put it down to a bit of rustiness, and hopefully we can bounce back and hopefully get a run of games coming, because I know they're struggling at the moment with teams coming down with COVID.
Has anyone else got an opinion on that? Do they think it's go on, Tim?
Yeah, I think we're perhaps doing a little bit of disrespect to Shrewsbury in relation to the rustiness. I think the one thing I picked up on reasonably early was that particularly our central midfields had so little time on the ball. And I think I started to watch what was happening with Dougal, and every time Dougal went anywhere, he seemed to have a man following him all the time. I think Cottrell knew where the beating heart of our team was, and set out to make sure that to try and negate him as much as he could. And I think he did it very well. Got very, very frustrated with how many times we just sort of hoofed the ball forward. I think I said it on the patrons chat, too much hoofing was going on. But part of that was the pitch. Part of that might be rustiness. But I also think that they did a little bit, we spoke about that reference to we're stuck with him. And I don't know whether that was the Gillingham game. I think it was in around that time. But in certain respects, I think we had a bit of a job done on us today again by a very experienced manager who knew how to stop us playing and played to their strengths. And
it's another Steve Evans, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Cottrell knows what he's doing, doesn't he? And even in the second, we'll come on to the second half. But in the second half, he changed the way his team played, very, very defensively, I have to say. But he changed the way his team played because he knew we were going to come at us, and he wanted to make sure that there was no space. And I just think experience. He's got, I don't know how many hundreds of games he's managed, but I think you saw some of that come out today, and I think that is probably the most decisive factor in that result.
Just coming out, I think he made a mistake personally, the manager, because he went to 4 at the back, and there was that stage where Blackpool were just pressing and really getting a foothold in the game, and I think we had 1 or 2 half decent chances, but he soon changed it back to a 5 or 3 at the back, whichever way you want to look at it. Because I thought Blackpool were getting a foot in the game, and I thought the goal was coming, but Like I said, we just weren't firing all cylinders tonight, especially in the front of final third, where we just never really got passes going and passes going astray, crosses not reaching or not even beating the first man, which for me is a bugbearer. But some credit to them. I think they did put someone on Dougal, like the number 10 position, and then one of the strikers dropped in, but that should give so much more space to Blackpool going forward.
I'll just add, if I may, John, I think a lot. Sorry, I was going to say I think a lot of people obviously talk about formations and whether Critchley got the right or the wrong formation. It doesn't help when there's 3 or 4 players who just have poor games. You can work all week and a half or whatever it's been on the training ground, but when you get performances off certain professionals that aren't up to the scratch, really, certainly on past performances recently, then you're always on the back foot and you're always struggling. And there was too many players who had poor games tonight. Simple as that.
You're talking about it was the entire midfield, Matt, almost.
Well, yeah. I mean, I can name you 4 or 5. I mean, Kai was anonymous. The only thing he did today was give away a penalty. That was pretty much it. Seriously, that's it. I don't remember. Tell me something else he did. I think he had he won a free kick after about 55 minutes.
Ran off the pitch when he was subbed. That was another thing.
That was it. Yeah, that was it. Kempy started off with a couple of runs in the first 5 or 10 minutes, drifted out, as we mentioned. Anderson did exactly the same. Robson, I thought he was poor. That's 4 players in the midfield or the front 5 or whatever, isn't it? So, it's just not good enough. You're not going to win games when you've got 4 or 5 players who are giving you 4 out of 10 performances. Simple as that.
So it'll be interesting to come to the player ratings later on in the show. So as Matt mentioned there, Sully Kaikai's had a bit of a stink. So just before we talk about the penalty incident, we've had a couple of sort of half chances when Tim Keshi's gone into the box, but he's fired high and wide. And again, Keshi answered he's not done a lot today, has he? He's not really justified his starting.
No, I think that was probably his first contribution. And you were laughing on the messaging, weren't you, about the comment that my brother would always come out with, which is,
remember that now, hit the target.
He was miles off, wasn't he? And
it's set up well for him, that chance, hasn't it? And he's leant back and it's gone over, and there's no excuses really. You can't blame the pitch or anything there.
Yeah, well, he's what Matt's just spoken about players who massively underperformed today, and he's one of them. And there was 2 or 3 names on that team sheet who you literally didn't hear mentioned at all. I think Chizzy commented how poor Kai was, which isn't like him really. But you literally, him and Anderson particularly, I hardly ever heard the commenter mention the names, and I think that's probably indicative of the way they were playing.
So let's move on to the penalty. Let's bring the room back up there. So who wants to come in on this first? Raise your hand. So shout loudest. Tomo, where you go?
Dreadful, lazy, awful tackle. He's nowhere near him. He's not going to win the ball. He's decided he's going to track back for once. And when he does, he sticks a leg out and you're going to go down. It's a penalty every day of the week. And for me, it's an inexcusable tackle that's cost us the game ultimately. That's it.
I think lazy is the key word you've used there. It was a lazy tackle. There's no other words to describe it. And Sam, you're nodding your head there. So what's your views on the penalty? I mean, for me, as soon as I saw it, I was sucking in air through my teeth and going.
I just don't. He's got the back 4 and obviously the left back in front of him. I don't know why he's sticking just a random leg out. It's bizarre.
He's not going to win the ball, is he? He's not going to win the ball doing that. So why do it?
It's an attacker's foul, isn't it? It's an attacker's attempt to win the ball, and I know the penalty's saved, but obviously it's ultimately put in the back of the net, which doesn't happen unless, if the foul isn't given in the penalty area. It summed up his performance, and I did that tackle for Kai.
Yeah, I think it sums up Kaikai's sort of either his confidence or his attitude at the moment. And that for me is why he shouldn't start the next game. I think he's either lacking civilian confidence. I know maybe dropping him wouldn't be the best thing, but for me, he doesn't deserve to start. And what goes through your head to think you're going to stick your leg out there when, like Sam said, you're on the edge of the box, you've got probably 6 men behind you, and you've still gone, yep, that's a good idea. I'm just going to stick my leg out and give them a chance to make it 1-0. And there is no other reason why you've gone to do that, apart from you think you're going to make a half-decent tackle as a professional footballer. For me, it's just horrendous. I don't think there's any reason why he's done it.
I mean, just the room, it's not a tackle he has to make, is it?
No.
If it's a manager, you're going to be furious with a player for doing that, because as Sam and Tom have alluded to, there was plenty of players between him and the goal. He wasn't going to get a shot off. The most he was going to do was pass it. All the other players were covered. He just had to jockey him, or even just leave him, let him go in there. He wasn't going to do any damage.
Well, he didn't need to be there. That's the problem. He kind of caused that his own problem there. There was 2 Blackpool players on him, and he came into the picture and then stuck his leg out, and then the ball's already in the air. So, he's going absolutely nowhere and cost us the game ultimately.
So we've got a few people in the chat not defending Kai, but just pointing a few things out. Phil's put Kai out of position playing left midfield. It just isn't his position. Kesh Anderson's more of a wild player, plays midfield.
It's nothing to do with the tackle, though. No. Sorry, it's Phil. Yeah. I get your point about him, but it's nothing to do with the foul. If anyone did that tackle, Kai or anyone, it's just stupid. It's, like I said, lazy, and probably the less said, the better about it.
Well, the start of the line, just going back to the lineup, I did comment on the chat. I thought Anderson was going to be the one playing out left because he played there the last couple of games, and I thought Kai would have gotten the opportunity to play in that sort of number 10 role, but that wasn't going to be. But Sam hit the nail on the head there about positional or otherwise. It's just a poor flick of the leg, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. There's quite a few people coming into his defence a bit just for the all-out performance.
He's a bit of an enigma, isn't he? He's the sort of player that will always split fan bases, isn't he? You know, because you see good things out of him, and you just wish he was more consistent. Which, you know, we've said it about a lot of our players over the last year and a half or whatever, that if they were more consistent, they wouldn't be playing in League One. And Kai very much that sort of, you know, can look really good, but equally can look not very good.
So what is his position? Can someone tell me what is his position?
I personally think, like it was just alluded to, he is most effective maybe at the number 10. But you've got to remember last year when he was in that purple patch of form, he was coming in from the wing, cutting inside and scoring goals. So I think, like I said, I think it's his general confidence or his attitude. I'm not going to sort of call him out if he's going through sort of a bad spell, but in terms of his sort of mental confidence. But he needs to be better regardless. He's not running at players. He's not picking up the ball. He's not dropping his shoulder and going past men. He's just kind of getting the ball, losing it and jogging back. And that tackle tonight absolutely summarises that. And for me, if he's going to play, if he's going to start, he has to be number 10. But him and Keshi didn't do themselves any favours last night. I think if you look back at the Portsmouth game, I think Tim mentioned Keshi was everywhere, and he had a few games out. And tonight, Keshi had a few games out, and he was nowhere to be seen. So I think we just carried too many passengers tonight. But if Kai is going to start, for me, he's got to try him at number 10, or he doesn't start him at all at the moment.
I think he's not going to start at all, to be honest, Tom. That's exactly what's going to happen. He doesn't warrant a start for me. His attitude, his demeanour reminds me a bit of Joe Nuttall when he's just not bothered, and that's the kind of aura he sets out for me. But we've talked about the penalty. Let's talk about the goal that they scored, which wasn't a penalty. It was a rebound from a penalty that was awfully defended after 2 fabulous saves from the goalie. Yeah. So he wants to come in on this.
From my perspective, it's criminal that when the keeper's done what he's done, that I think we had, I can't remember, it was Garber, it was on the line, who couldn't quite turn around to face it. But at least he was there. He was the only one that was there. And they had 4 players coming in, and we were stood watching as spectators when we should have been anticipating what was going to happen. And as a manager, we talk about the penalty, but equally, it's infuriating when your players stand on the edge of the area and are reacting rather proactively thinking about where that ball's going to potentially end up. And I think there's a couple of players need to look at themselves there as regards the way that they approached that penalty, because the keeper's done everything he can do.
So Tim, if you look at the screen there, I've just brought I took a still from my laptop when I was watching it, and if we can see there, we've got the aftermath of the second penalty save.
There's one Shrewsbury player there.
There's two. There's three.
Well, you know what I mean.
We've got Kemp barely on the penalty spot. We've got Garbutt just coming into shot. Dan Ballard doing his best. The angles didn't favour him, so he was there. And for us to not pile into the box and defend that, I mean, what's the keeper thinking there when he's made two top draw saves?
Yeah,
there's enough bodies in there. Do you need it's like you're saying, like the whole team needs to be? Maybe I'm being.
Yeah, but the first phase of that, Sam.
It's hard to tell from that picture. It's a bit.
There's four of them come in and they're ahead of our players. So that's after the second save. We've got coming in on the left. That's just coming in right at the end of it. As John said, there's two coming in there. The one player who got himself, is it Ballard on the line? I can't tell for the picture.
Ballard's on the line doing his best.
And to be fair, he just got twisted round the wrong way, and he was really frustrating himself.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But I just felt, if you saw the first phase of that, you'll see that there's four of them, and they've reacted a lot quicker than our guys. And they've got players in there who, and we've got players watching on the out. Three of them watching on the outside.
You'd expect.
I must admit, I thought there was another. I had it in my head that there's another Shrewsbury player in there as well. A lot, but the only
there's left just off screen. There's one left just off screen, Tim. There.
Right, okay.
I think what's happened is I think Walker's made the first initial save, and they thought maybe it's going out. I don't know, but it's inexcusable that they haven't run in anyway. But then the second save comes in, they're probably still in a bit. It's schoolboy stuff, but they're probably still a bit of shock that he's made a second save, and then Ballard's the only one a bit switched on to try and block the shot, which he does a reasonable attempt at. But I'm pretty livid. Not only has the keeper come in and in difficult circumstances, he's made two terrific saves, and we've just watched. They've just watched it, both the penalty given away and the reaction to the penalty is just
unprofessional.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, Matt Penny, for your thoughts on this? I mean, if you're looking at Dan Kemp there, he's not even on his toes, is he? He's watching.
No, it's a funny one because as a somebody who used to stand on the edge of boxes watching penalties that we conceded quite a lot, as a defender, you were the ones that were always sort of switched on, but attackers never were. They just weren't. It's just in their nature not to be bothered about defending, and that's probably what's happened here. I don't know who was in the, like I said, the picture isn't so clear, but I can imagine there's probably 3 out of 4 are defenders in that picture in the middle, and the others are attackers. But they're attackers it's that unprofessionalism that they need to sort of know about, that, they've got to help out. And, it was just a calamitous 2 or 3 minutes, wasn't it, with the initial foul and then, the 2 great saves and then obviously the goal as well. So, if you were going to sort of summarise in 30 seconds our whole evening, that was it, really.
So, listeners, give us your thoughts on that penalty. AMAC says for a keeper to make a double save, nobody there to clear the third time is poor at any level. It certainly is, AMAC. And I was down at Poolfoot Farm today watching Polton under-8s in a tournament, and not even they would have done that. Stood around looking at aircraft go by, maybe, but they defended a cut. They defended a save from a goalie. Cliff Smith says the lack of backing up from the defenders at the penalty was inexcusable and demonstrates the lack of passion running throughout the team. That's a lack of passion. What does anyone think of that? For me, Kai. Yeah, I'm agreeing with Cliff there. Not the rest of them. Anyone else want to come in on that?
We've been out, 19th of December we played Accrington. Feels like a couple of months ago, doesn't it? But I don't think there's a lack of passion, because if we get a draw from that or anything, I don't think you're questioning the passion from the team. I think tonight was just a piss poor game that we cannot let carry on against Bristol Rovers, because if we go back to how we were against Wimbledon and Gillingham, etc., and he chooses to have that system where we're just not working it out, and we lose all that momentum from previous. I mean, the 2 games not playing has shafted us massively. I think we play Rochdale, we beat them at home, and we continue to build, but we just had a really bad game tonight. And I think if we go to 4-4-2 and Yates and Medine start and we get a draw or win against Bristol Rovers and we're back on track, I think in the last few games, especially Hull, you've seen how much passion can be in that team or is in that team. I think tonight was just a really poor game.
Quick comments just coming from Phil. It's quite pertinent. I was shocked we played both Garbutt and Gabriel as neither are natural defenders. Tim, I'm going to come to you on this one. It's something we have talked about in the past, haven't we?
Yeah, I think we've generally been of the view that we play one.
Yeah.
If we're going to play, we'll play one and then one more defensive fullback who can always move across if need be as the other pushes on. So you basically is the 3 move slightly. If you've got the left back pushing up, the 3 remaining will move across slightly, and basic defensive strategy, isn't it? That's what you do. When you've got 2, then it creates slightly more space behind when both are pushed up. As I said at the beginning, perhaps he thought with having Dougal and Robson, 2 relatively defensive midfielders, he was trying to create an attacking option. And he perhaps thought we could do that from the 2 wing-back spots, which, of course, is a bit of a Liverpool thing, isn't it, that that they do, albeit in this 4-3-3 formation that he seems so keen for us to play. I'm not too critical of his decision to play them because I see it as an attacking move by him, but I understand Phil's point. But I don't think they caused us too much of a problem going forward. I think where our issues were our lack of commitment to the attacking third of the pitch, and we go back to the various points that Matt and others have made about too many players underperforming. You could in the forward positions there was at least four players who weren't worth the shirt tonight. They literally weren't, and I don't think you can necessarily expect Critchley to predict that.
Tom, over to you next.
Yeah, I was just about to say, Tim has literally said what I was going to say. I think this might be, well, not controversial anyway. I just don't think we did anything too much wrong defensively tonight. We dealt with what came our way. As Matt said earlier, it was 30 seconds of rubbish that cost us the game. But defensively, yeah, they had a couple of shots, maybe like the header where Walker saved it, but they didn't really ruin us at the back tonight. We were just that poor in the middle that we lost the game, and I think that's what it boils down to. So for me, the defensive picks weren't bad at all. If anything, they were positive. Gabriel had a couple of nice runs, couldn't quite make it out in the first half where he cut in between a couple of defenders but just ran out of options. They didn't do too much wrong tonight. It's just we carried too many passengers in the midfield, and that's it.
Matt, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'll just add, I just wondered whether he left Turton on the bench basically is possibly the only option should Ballard or Pateta get injured, because obviously he's slotted in at centre-half before. So maybe it was a case of, if Turton gets injured, if starting at right-back, then potentially if a centre-half gets injured, it leaves us really exposed. So just potentially a thought behind that process, really.
I think with Turton, for me, he's becoming one of our best players, and he's solid, and he's rarely put a foot wrong this season. I was one of his critics earlier on, and I think we did miss him on the right hand side. And I think he's just a very solid defender, and he's Mr. Dependable, Steady Eddie, I think he's described as. But yeah, so let's get back to the match. Second half, I'm just trying to work out if anything actually happened. I'm just flicking through Blackpool FC official feed, and we've got a big save on 58 minutes from Sam Walker.
Yeah,
Deny the host of seconds. For such a big man, he got down very well, didn't he? And just flicked that inbound, goal-bound shot around the left-hand post. So, who wants to come in on his overall performance and that save?
Yeah, I thought he had a great game. I didn't realise how tall he was. It's 6'6".
He's a monster, isn't he? Yeah.
I thought he had an excellent game. I think crosses came in the box. He dealt with it so calmly. Was just plucked out of the air. Distribution looked really really good in terms of kind of the throwing. I think he did one in the first half. I think it was to Anderson on the right side or whoever it was. So yeah, he's good. Looks a good goalkeeper and one who looks like he can really go on further in his career. Maybe even Premier League, high end Championship, but you can't fault him. I think for a debut as a goalkeeper, it's got to be up there.
You've got a comment coming from AMAC there. Anyone called Sam has to be brilliant, haven't they, Sam? What have you got to say about that?
Just shrug.
And modest.
Thanks, AMAC.
Though, I mean, he was rock solid, wasn't he? This 6'6" Sam. Brilliant penalty save and commanding in the air. So, was it Chizzy said on the chat that Steve Banks knows him from somewhere, and he said he's found him as soon as he found out he's available.
I think it was from the FA Cup matches. I think he alluded to in the when he had his interview with Matt and the Gazette. They noticed him because he scuppered a few of our chances in the FA Cup matches and previous matches as well. So I think Steve put a word in, and there was a volley in the first half or a shot where he just had it above his head. He just caught it. I think most keepers would have struggled, and I just went, he's caught that. Yeah, literally just like glue. But yeah, I think the save in the second half was probably his best. I mean, the pen is a decent save. I'm not going to criticise him. He should hold it because the second save was even more impressive. But the header kept us in the game. The save in the second half, and he was more commanding in some respects than Maxwell, and probably more reassuring. But both keepers have been decent this season. But if he was our backup or if he started, you would have no complaints, because he showed tonight that he really wanted to play football. And just a shout out to him, if you didn't see, he's I think his missus is 36 weeks pregnant, and obviously the game got called off as well the other day. So he travelled up under difficult circumstances. So he clearly wants to play football, and he showed that tonight. I think he was the most gutted when the ball went in the net as well. He lost it a bit as well, so it was good to see.
Yes, decent shout. So let's hopefully there's a chance to sign him as a backup keeper, or as even someone to press Maxwell. I think it'll be a decent option if that becomes available. About 65 minutes. Tim, I'm going to bring on you on this.
I know you're going to tell me.
Your bugbear is doing 3 substitutions at the same time, but we didn't do 3. We did 4.
Yeah, we did.
Jordan Gabriel, Grant Ward, Ethan Robson, Dimitri Mitchell for Dan Kemp, and Jerry Yates for Sully Kai. So what was your thoughts on this, Tim?
My thoughts normally on making this number of substitutions. The only thing I would say in Critchler's defence on this occasion is that perhaps Kemp accepted most of them deserved to be hooked because they were playing.
I thought Kemp did as well, to be honest, Tim.
I think Kemp, I'm perhaps defending him a little bit because I thought he did a little bit more in the first half than some of the others. The only slight disappointment I had, because I think originally we thought it was going to be 3, was that Yates wasn't going to come on, because I felt that was the obvious change that we needed to get back to more 4-4-2 formation. But obviously then he joined as the 4th sub. But I just, as a principle, it's just wrong. But I will slightly let him off, because I think on this occasion it was probably justified. And I think we did, after that, start to take the game to them a little bit more than we had been doing up to that point. Probably my frustration is that we didn't make a substitution at half time, because I think there was some of those performances out there in the first half were so poor that I don't think they should have come out for the second. And I think Yates should have been on at the start of the second half, and I was quite surprised that he wasn't.
Yeah, so Matt, over to you. So we've obviously got 4 subs being made, and do you think this was an admission of guilt from Critchler that he's made a mistake and he's finally gone to 4-4-2, and we looked a better side after this formation change, a substitution anyway?
Yeah, very possibly. I think what was interesting was that for me, and we've discussed this before, that it's about who's sort of the best partner for Dougal, and I thought Ward played really well when he came. And
haven't we in the past? We've all
said, I mean, it's funny, at the start of the season, we didn't know where he was playing or what he was doing, and then when he's played in the middle alongside Dougal, it's been for me, it's been the best partnership that we've got. So when he came on, I thought all of a sudden he did what we expect those two to do. They were a bit more snappy in the tackle. They were Ward in particular was picking the ball up off the back two centre halves in particular, and it just seemed to be a little bit more of a flow to it. Turton was getting as much forward as Gabriel certainly was. So we seem to have the momentum, and I'm like Tim. I'm not a big fan of 3, 4, 5 substitutions or whatever, obviously, but it was definitely a case of it is broke, so we'll try and fix it tonight. So I think it was an admission that he got it wrong, albeit it could have happened 1 or 2 minutes earlier. Could have happened at half time, as Tim mentioned. So it did give us a little bit of momentum, which unfortunately just wasn't enough. But yeah, a little too late, unfortunately.
Fielding Junior, your thoughts on the quadruple substitution?
I think Steve in the chat gets this one spot on. I think the subs did make a difference tonight. I thought we had momentum going after the changes were made. We seen a bit more link-up play. Back four, we're passing it around nicely, creating a bit of width, and it's the final product. So we can say that from the first minute to the 95th minute. Maybe one at half time, maybe just to mix it up and cause just them a little bit of confusion, because a sub can always do that to a team who I'm marking. I've not been told this or instructed, but I thought the subs did well tonight when they came on. Was it a fact that he got it wrong? That's for Critchley to decide, but I just thought they were needed at that point. 30 minutes to go, make a few changes. They changed system as well to go 4 at the back and 5 in midfield, or 4-3-3 with the 2 wingers coming back. So we looked like the only team going on to win the game. And I thought if we got that first, that equaliser, we would have gone on to win the game, just due to how we were pressing them. I just didn't think Shrewsbury were any good, but the team that's not been very good have come out with 3 points tonight.
Finally, Tom, your thoughts on the quadruple substitution? Do you think it was an admission of guilt from Critchley, and do you think it made a positive difference in the game?
Look, Critchley's tried to pick his team, and it hasn't worked. So maybe it is an admission of guilt. The substitutions were decent. Yates had to come on for me at half time. He had to, because I think he would have changed the game. Sorry, can you hear me all right?
Yeah. Can hear you now.
Sorry. Yeah, I think Yates had to come in at half time, because I think we would have got that equaliser potentially early doors, because they weren't threatening us too much. But for me, the subs were right. I think Mitchell was decent. It was good to see him play. But Yates comes on, goes on the left, then you see Medina out wide, and then changes to 4-4-2. Then the strikers are out wide again. For me, if you're going to make those changes, come on with a plan, because you don't stick Yates again out wide. It's just pointless. It was, again, something he did at the start of the season, and it's just not going to work. So a bit more direction from the front men when they came on. It definitely worked, but not going straight into 4-4-2, it hurt us again a little bit more. But we were probably going to score eventually, but it just wasn't good enough again tonight.
So we keep all banging on about this, don't we? 4-4-2, and every time he kind of tinkers with it, we kind of take a step backwards. It has worked in the odd game against Pompey, but he just needs to stick with 4-4-2 for me, and just stick with what works and plough on with that. But anyway, back to the game itself. Mark, the game petered out. There was in the last kind of 10 minutes. We had a couple of half chances, didn't we? First, let's talk about Medine when he went down in the box. Do you think that was a pen? And B, Ekpeteta's chance at the far post?
Yeah, I thought it was a pen. It was fairly blatant, really. To say he was manhandled. I mean, when you think about, I can't think which game it was now, a couple of 3 weeks ago, and he won a penalty, and he was, sort of brushed and went down. And like on this particular one, he was basically from the penalty spot to the 6-yard line. He was basically hauled down as if he was, playing rugby league or something. So,
given how picky the ref was and giving every single foul, every knock and bumper free kick, you'd expect him to give that. Yeah,
you would do. And that referee, he sort of had that in him in a weird way, didn't he, all night? But when it come to typically what we wanted to happen, it didn't. That another day that could have been given. Yeah, the Ekpiteta chance. And there was also another one. I'm trying to think who it was now. I think it might have just ricocheted off Anderson at the back post at some point before he was hooked off. But you're talking, half chances, aren't you? It was a ball from Dougal. It's just come back to me, the Ekpiteta chance, wasn't it? Great ball to the back post, and then unfortunately it wasn't Jerry Yates on the back post, was it? It was Big Marv. So again, another day it could have been him, and it could have been 1-1 or even better. But unfortunately, we probably got what we deserved tonight, didn't we? Ultimately.
Sam, do you want to come in on this?
Yeah, the penalty, it reminded me of when one of the Colombia players brought down Harry Kane in the World Cup.
Exactly the same thing.
I don't know how he's not given, but one thing I think the defender's got away with is he's got one player to his right and one player to his left blocking the referee's view. So he's probably been quite lucky there to get away with it. But I think there's one in the first half where I think Medine was fuming with the referee that he's not given a penalty. But you've got to move on. You don't give them that chance. It was a great ball. We were a bit moaning about the corner being played short of free kick, whatever it was. But they changed the angle of it, really caused a bit of confusion with them. But you just need one player to get a touch on the ball, and it's in the back of the net. Just, I think, if you, like Matt said, if you've got a striker in there, Medine or Yates at the back post instead of Marv's, it probably does end up in the back of the net. But yeah, you've got to score those. When those chances come to you in a game where you've not created too many, you've really got to take them.
Yeah, so Tim, the game petered out in the last 10 minutes. Did you expect us to get back in the game and get an equaliser, or was it a procession?
No. In short, I don't think we created anything like... I'm not saying that with the benefit of hindsight, because I think Sam will say I said it in the last 10 minutes, so I just said I can't see a scoring here. And, we've mentioned a couple of half chances as being our best chance, the only chances we had. And I think this is something that the management at the club have got to look at very, very carefully, because we're playing a system that just does not suit the players that we've got, and we're not creating anything like the number of chances that we do where we stick to the tried and tested formula. So why you tinker with that when you've seen, we were so negative's the wrong word, but we were so concerned about the run of games that we had in November and December and how we were going to pick up points, and we've come through that with a great points total, and now we're tinkering against a team who haven't won a game at home since February, and you just think, why are we're not making teams think about the way that we play rather than trying to be too clever.
Yeah, Tim, it's Groundhog Day, isn't it?
Oh, it's just I'm so frustrated, and the reality is I didn't see us scoring again.
No.
And Labala's a young lad, but he came on, didn't add any value for me, and I'm just but I think particularly because we've had these two games where we've not played, we've thought as I mentioned before, Rochdale, we don't know what would have happened at Sunderland, but Rochdale, we thought there's 3 points to be taken. Shrewsbury, there's 3 points to be taken. Bristol Rovers, there's 3 points to be taken, and I'd have half expected us to be in the playoff positions come the 1st of Jan, and instead, I'm sat here tonight thinking, we're throwing away the season that we'd created for ourselves by doing stupid things, and there's no rhyme or reason behind it that I can think of. Certain thing. I'm sure that the reason Hamilton's not played tonight is because he's having to self-isolate or whatever.
Someone's just sorry to interrupt. Someone said he's out with a hamstring injury.
Okay. Well,
weeks, so,
I think we know. I think we know that Critchley would have picked him if he'd been fit, and that's a big loss. So, we do have to shuffle the pack a bit, but shuffling the pack and they're throwing all the cards up in the air and seeing which ones come down face up, isn't there? And
yeah. So, Tim, a lot of people on the stream are agreeing with you there. Cliff Smith said pretty much everyone on the panel and most of us watching can see it. It should be Yates and Medine. So why can't our coaching teams? Would anyone like to hazard a guess at why that is? Everyone's shaking their head.
Yeah, it's an odd one, isn't it? Because obviously, when we win, it's Calderwood who's the genius, and then when we lose, it's Critchley that's the bad guy. But they must have these conversations between them about the formation, and it's like it's there in black and white, isn't it? You know, played X amount with this formation, won X amount with that formation, and played and lost with the other one. So.
Matt, as soon as we changed the formation, we had a cross into the box and we created a chance. Remember, it was a
and that was the
minutes,
and that's the main thing that's been the difference about the change of formation. It's the bodies in the box, and obviously reading that comment before about Hamilton has just really made my night even worse, because obviously if he's out for, well, let's say 3-4 weeks, you know, that's a massive loss. I mean, he's been such a key player to us that I don't know how we're going to replace him. I really don't.
Phil's not pulling any punches there. Oxford at home, Aki away, and today all points dropped. Critchley to blame 100%. Who wants to come in on that?
Well, I feel like I'm going against Phil tonight with his comments, but look, Oxford are a decent team. I know they play good football. I thought they played well against us at our place. Accrington, look, they're at the top of the table. I think they conceded 4 goals all season, so they're a good team that know how to block teams out with the 3 or 5 at the back, whichever you want to look at it. But I agree with him tonight. I think Critchley made a few errors with his lineup. One I thought with Anderson, Yates should have started instead, but it's one of those nights I think that we've not played. We're a bit rusty, a few players out, and just one team that has got momentum. 8 games unbeaten now after tonight's win. They seem to get a few performances out of Cottrell. So I think it's just one seriously we need to put behind us and look ahead, because we did create a few chances. Yes, half chances, but what did they create? Nothing, in my opinion. The penalty they got, which was luck. Well, not luck. It was a poor tackle, but they've hardly created anything. I think we've negative because we've not watched many games over the last few weeks. It does hurt, because you do expect to go and win these games, and tonight is just one of those nights that we need to put behind us.
Right, lads, closing thoughts on the game just before we go on to player ratings. Has anyone got any closing thoughts at all, Tim?
I just think we've got to go back to basics and give ourselves the best chance to win each game. I sort of half understand where Phil's coming from, or I know half back up what Sam's saying, but I think in Aki, I think probably I exclude, but I think in the Oxford game and this game today, we haven't given ourselves the best chance to win the game. And both those games, I went into them thinking I was confident we'd win, and we've picked up 1 point out of 6. And if we had those 6 points, we would be knocking on the doors of the playoffs today, wouldn't we? And that's why it's frustrating. I don't think we've, play the best team. It's obvious which is the best team. Do that. And if we lose, we're not going to win every game by any stretch of the imagination. If we lose games playing that formation, I think we can all take it on the chin. But when we tinker and mess around with it, I'm left feeling that we've been shortchanged a little bit. And that's what I don't like. I don't like it. Leaves a very negative thought where it should be a positive one, because we've got the players, we've got the squad to actually do something this season. And there's still a lot of games to be played.
So just the rest of the panel, Max, he said this before you were talking to him. He's more or less said what you've said. Critchley tries to match his team up player for player against the opposition. He said as much. That's a negative way to approach a game. Yep. Anyone else want to just come in for a final word? Tom?
Yeah, it's exactly what we said at the start, isn't it? Yeah. We don't play our own game, and then we fall into the trap of trying to match the opponent, and that just plays into their hands because we're not used to doing it. Tim's just said it, play our game, win the match, knock on the door of the playoffs. We take 5 steps forward and 6 steps back at the moment, because this can't happen against Bristol. He needs to go back to basics again if he goes against Bristol, and we're in the same position as we were at the start of the season. So, like Sam said, for me, and I've been a critic of Critchley in recent sort of times at the start of the season, but they have turned it around recently, and they need to go back to what was working, because if not, we will fall into the trap of being in the bottom half of the table, and we'll have more podcasts like this. So
we're just stuck with him casts. Right, let's move on to the player ratings then. So I'll just get the old list up again. Right, I've got no graphic for Sam Walker, so let's go with the top to bottom. Right, Sam, you can do Sam. So Sam Walker. I
don't think he did anything wrong. I think, as I said before, he came out for crosses, which most keepers are quite. I guess Maxwell's quite small, so he tends to flap at them a little bit. But I thought he commanded his area. His kicking was good. Again, you can't hear him talk, but he seemed to look like he was organising his defenders. For me, it's got to be Can I go 8+, like my dad might say? No, I'm going for an 8, but it easily could be a 9 in my opinion. I thought he was outstanding tonight.
8.234 recurring. That's what we said in the last one. Right, Tim. Jordan Gabriel.
Yeah, I thought he had a solid enough game. I think we've spoken about. I don't think defensively we did too much wrong, and I also think he pushed on, particularly in the first half. He pushed on and drove into the heart of their team a little bit, which I saw as a positive. You know, he was prepared to take the game to the opposition, which is what you want to see. I don't think it was spectacular. I think it's a solid 7.
Right, who up to? Let's go to Tom with Big Marv.
I'll give him an 8 because everything he did tonight, he did well. I think I said this at the start a few weeks ago. He at the start of the season was clattering into players, not taking that step back, thinking about what he wants to do. And 2 or 3 blocks tonight, which are really key, that stopped crosses into the box. He won a lot of his headers. His position was fantastic. And unlike at the start of the season, like I've just alluded to, his passing was simple and decent. So he didn't do, again, anything wrong tonight. So it's an 8 for me.
Matt, his centre-half partner, Dan Ballard.
Exactly. It's Big Marv, really. He's a good player, and he was solid again. I don't actually think he's played in his sort of right side of centre half for us since he's come in. I might be wrong, perhaps, but he doesn't look uncomfortable on the left-hand side at all. Good, solid performer. Rumours are that we've got him now to the end of the season. We'll wait for sort of formal sort of confirmation of that. But yeah, fingers crossed, absolutely, because we will need him. Sorry, 8 out of 10 anyway.
8 out of 10 for Dan. Luke Garbett, Sam.
I don't think he did anything wrong. I thought his set pieces, which he's on the pitch to take, were near enough spot on. I think 1 or 2 just under hit, but to me, it's probably going to be just below the other 2 centre halves and just go for a 7. Like I said, we've all said, I don't think the back 4 had much to deal with today. So a pat on the back for all 5 of them, to be fair, including the goalkeeper.
Right, Tim, over to you. Kenny Dougal. Now, we had a bit of a laugh when you weren't here on the last pod. Yeah. So you were bigging him up, saying he was the best midfielder in the league. Then he had a bit of a dip in form, so we were blaming you. How do you think he did today? I
thought he was competent without being exceptional. I've been I've blown a few trumpets on his behalf. But yeah, I think they negated him a bit too easily today, and I think a couple of times he reverted to just hoofing it forward, which I don't want to see from him. I want him to get back to that player who settles us down, because I think when he plays well, Blackpool play well, and I think part of the reason we didn't quite tick today is that Cottrell did a bit of a job on him, and we have to think about how we deal with that. And I think one of the ways we deal with it is to pair him with Ward more, because I think the comment Matt made about him and Ward working probably is the best 2 in midfield. And listen, I've been a critic of Ward, just as some others have, but to be fair to him, in a 4 with Dougal as the centre 2, he does a good job. So I'm going to give him a 7.
Centre half partner Ethan Robson. Tom, not his best game.
5, bring back Ward. No, he was ominous tonight. His passing definitely wasn't it definitely wasn't up to scratch, and he just got lost in the game a bit. He was way off pace, and Dougal was fighting, as Tim's alluded to. I think when Dougal got the ball, he was surrounded and he was trying to look for a pass, but Ethan Robson was just not at the races tonight. And while Dougal tried to make things work, he just got lost a bit. So doesn't deserve any more than a 5.
Right, Matt, Dan Kemp.
Difficult. I want to give him more than 6, but I can't. He started okay and just faded, really. So yeah, 6.
Sorry, on our WhatsApp chat, someone said he's a typical academy player of a Premier League team, and hard to argue for me.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what we do now that CJ Hamilton's out, isn't it? Whether we stick him as a replacement in a more permanent sort of position. I've got a feeling Mitchell might get the shout, But anyway, that's for another conversation. But yeah, I'll give him 6 just because he stayed on the pitch a bit longer than I thought.
Keshi.
Can I actually don't know what he did, bar missed 2 chances inside the penalty area. I don't think he linked up the play well. I don't think he linked the play up great. I thought his passing was a little bit sloppy, too long on the ball. I'm going to go with Fat Goat Sack. That's a strange name for YouTube. Yeah, one of my comments. I'm going to go and it said 5. I'm going to say 5 because I just don't know what he did really. And a player of his ability should be at least hitting a target on one of those 2 attempts he had.
The comments has gone wild. It's obviously very people have got a lot of opinions. I can't keep an eye on the comments list as well. I'm changing these banners, so unfortunately missed them. Who are we on next? Kashi. Right, Tim, you've got a good one. Salika.
Yeah, I did. I had a feeling I was going to get him, and I didn't know whether I really wanted to because it's. I don't want to be too negative about anybody, but it's difficult not to be negative about that performance. I think that's possibly the worst performance I've ever seen him play, and I hope we're not going to see that again. Literally, as I said, his only contribution in the first half was to give a penalty away, and that's just not good enough for a player of his abilities. And I don't think I've got any alternative other than to give him a 4 because he was the worst of our 11. And if you give him 5 to the others, then he has to get a 4. And he shouldn't start next game. He can't start next game. We've got to look for a formation. Anderson was poor today, but I would put Anderson out left, get Ward and get Dougal in the middle. Decide who you're going to play on the right hand side, assuming CJ is not going to play, and get those 2 centre forwards that we've got playing up front together. That's what we've got to do. And he was. You can't even call him a luxury player tonight because he wasn't a luxury player. He was a hindrance.
The lowest ever score dished out on this show on the player rating sections, and it's hard to argue. Gary Medine
doing it, by the way. I have to say, in some respect, I didn't want to get a call.
Yeah, I don't think you've no complaints from us on here. I absolutely agree with you. Just to wrap this up, Tom. Gary Medine isolated up front, 1 versus 5. Not a lot you can do, and that's the case.
Yeah, it's difficult not to give him a 5 or a 6, but it's not because it's Medine's fault. It's because he couldn't do anything tonight, so he should have won us a penalty. It's, again, not his fault. He was the only thing I say. He went down a lot under challenges to try and win his free kicks. Now I don't mind that usually, but he was just ineffective tonight because he didn't have any support around him. So 5, 6 based on the other scores that we give him because he did work hard, but didn't do much. So
I think we've said it time and time again on this show. Take Medine out of the equation, Yates is ineffective. Take Yates out of the equation, Medine's ineffective. So just listen to what we're saying, Neil, because we're always right. Always right.
I might put that on the next graphic, better than the radio, or we're always right.
Photoshop John in the dugout.
Tim should be manager. Fielding in.
He looks like the sort who'd have a sheepskin coat.
I was the type of manager who always choose to tuck my socks into my tracky bottoms, though.
Oh,
Sam will tell you.
I thought you were more of a big. What's he called? Malcolm Allison type.
Get a cigar.
Cigar, yeah. Can I carry the magic sponge, Tim? I'll get into what the match game. No, Sam's got his little schemes to get him in the game. I was gutted for you, Sam. It was called off the other night.
Yeah, me too.
Right, let's move on to man of the match if we must. So let's go around the room, the virtual room. Sam, you first. Who was your man of the match?
There's only one winner, and that's the goalkeeper for me tonight.
Fair shout. What's his name again? Sam Walker.
Mm-hmm.
Tim, man of the match.
Superb debut. Can't argue with Sam. I thought his save that we spoke about earlier was very, very good. Penalty save, double save, excellent. Distribution, decent. Handling, fantastic. Do for me. Man of the match.
Listeners, get your comments in. Who was your man of the match? And we are looking at them all. I'll try and get us through as many as I can at the end. Tom, over to you. Man of the match.
Initial thoughts with Sam, but because we've had two already, I'll go Marv's because he's been solid every single game and is an absolute. Yeah, he's been brilliant from the last sort of 6 or 7 games. He's grown and grown and grown and become the centre half that probably got signed up to be. So he's developed really well and he didn't do anything wrong tonight. So I'll go Marv's.
I'm going to agree with Tom, with Marv as well. Again, I've knocked him at the beginning of the season, but he's growing into every game. Brilliant, superb performance. Big Marv, keep it up. Matt, finally, what's your mark?
Yeah, a bit surprised nobody's mentioned Kai yet, but
we said man of them.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. No, I mean Sam Walker, he coming in, sort of at the 12th hour, as it were, and didn't put a foot wrong, really, did he? So I think I'll go with him as well. It'd just be interesting just to talk about how good a footballing goalkeeper he is. That'll be interesting to see in the next game because, in previous games, the ball seems to go back a lot to Chris Maxwell, who starts the attacking moves as well. But, from what he did tonight, can't argue with Big Marv or Sam Walker being man of the match, but I'll give it the keeper.
Close off the man of the match section. I've just seen this from Alex Walker. The worrying thing is our keeper or centre halves have been man of the match every week. So I won't say it's every week man of the match, Alex, but it's been a large percentage. It's a decent observation. Does anyone think that's a worry?
I don't think so. I think it's a good sign that we can be resolute at times. I know we haven't got the result that we wanted this evening, but I think if you've got players who can put the bodies on the line, which Marv did tonight, and I agree with what Tom was saying, he was a close second for me, but in a game tonight where there wasn't too much to do, there's only one real person you can give it to, or two people. So for me, it's a positive that they are getting man of the match, because if we were slating them every week, we would be losing obviously more games than we're winning as the season goes on. So for me, it's a positive, but I do get what Alex is saying.
Yeah. Tim?
Yeah, it was just, I think Dougal's won at least 2, and I think CJ's won at least 1. I can't remember, the Yates has won 1 as well. But I think also the fact that we've picked quite a few defenders is probably a reflection of the teams we've been playing, because we've started doing this feature, haven't we, during this period where we actually seen us improve dramatically against some very good sides, and we've defended imperiously in those games. And so I don't see it as a negative. I think victories are built on a strong defence, and when we've played well, it's only right that you give it to the player you think has played the most important part of the game. And I think it's fair results. Today, it's more of a reflection of the fact that there's little in the top half of the pitch that warranted a man of the match nomination. But normally, I think it's just a reflection of some great performances from the likes of Ballard and Ekpateta particularly. But it's
out there, Phil.
It's a valid point for today, I think, most certainly, that it's worrying that there's no suggestion that anybody in the top half of the pitch is worthy of consideration.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I'm just going to say that Phil Omby said, don't forget a couple of months ago, our defence was terrible. If you hark back to a couple of months ago when we were saying it's the worst back four we've seen for 25 years. So,
and it was.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I think we'll turn it in now. Anyone just got any closing thoughts before we go?
Just want a reaction against Bristol, don't we?
Yeah.
As we've said, as Matt's just said there, we do have Bristol Rovers. What's that?
I said 4-4-2, please.
4-4-2.
That's it.
I'll have to untick I'll tick the explicit box there. Not for kids tick on YouTube. But yeah, let's talk about Bristol Rovers just quickly before we go. Bristol Rovers away this Saturday, the 2nd, day after New Year's Day. Sam, it's a good opportunity to bounce back from an extremely lacklustre performance.
Yeah, they've not had the best starts of the season, but I don't think they've got a new manager. They lost the manager after the Fleetwood loss, didn't they? So I'm not too sure on their form, but for us, we just need to bounce back like we did after the Wimbledon game and Gillingham game, whichever way around it was, and put out a performance, because we know the performance out there. Look what we did against Hull. Obviously a late winner, but again, we can do it, and that was the frustrating thing tonight, that just it never ticked. But there's a few factors for me, and I'm sure it'll be turned right on Saturday.
Matt, over to you. Bristol Rovers, your thoughts? Just a point there for Mark Chamberlain that's come on, decent point, 19 goals in 19 games. He's not promotion form. We need to start scoring goals if we want to be going up that table.
Well, yeah, we need to start scoring goals by putting more players in the right end of the pitch to do that. So let's see what happens on Saturday. It will be a time of adjustment, as I keep mentioning about Hamilton not playing. So it'll be interesting to see what he does do to replace him. Don't know much about Bristol Rovers, I'll be honest, but you know, they're not obviously pulling up any trees, so they're there to be taken if we get out of the bed the right side and do what we know we're capable of doing. So hopefully, like I said, there'll be a positive reaction, and we'll be a bit more positive about things come Saturday at presumably 5 o'clock when we finish.
Tom, over to you just before we go. Your thoughts on the upcoming Bristol Rovers game? AMAC thinks we'll be looking at a 2-2-2-2-1-1 formation.
Just echo everyone's thoughts. Play our game and don't worry about the opposition. They're 21st in the league, and we should be going there needing not only to win, but we should just play our game that we've just been playing well recently in the form we're in. So play 4-4-2, please, and do a job on them.
Yeah. Tim, just before we go, your thoughts on Bristol Rovers away, and Nanjale up top for that?
Yeah, maybe. I think probably where we need to recruit is up front. I don't think we've got enough firepower up there. It's worrying about CJ being out. What I want to see on Saturday is Ward and Dougal, the centre mid, and the two guys up front. We can work around that. We obviously, we're pretty, we've got a few options in defence. We're going to stay solid centre backs. We'll have to make a decision about whether we go with attacking fullbacks, whether it's one, whether it's two. I'd probably bring Turton back in and but leave Garbutt in. I just want to see, they're the four players I want to see playing in those positions. If we do that, I think we'll win the game.
Right, okay. Thanks everyone this evening for your input. It's now 11:20, if you can believe that. We've still got...
It's been a late one. I'm going to put some jazz on in a minute. It's that late.
I might have a pink gin and lemonade just to wind down.
Turn the lights down and put some jazz on. That's what I'm going to do.
I was going to rewatch that 90 minutes to put me to sleep.
And on that note, I think we'll say good evening. A great way to end the show. Right, thanks a lot, gentlemen, for coming on.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome.
Welcome.
Thanks to everyone in the stream. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for listening on the audio pod. Here's to 3 points against Bristol Rovers away. I hope you all have a good evening and a very happy new year. Thanks for joining us on the Seasiders podcast. That remains to be said is Up the Pool.
Up the Pool.